Well, hello! If you're quite new to quads and you're just starting to really get into it and you want to get some HD footage from your flight, but you're a bit worried about putting something pricey like a GoPro session on the camera, we might have the answer for you. What I have today from Gearbest are a couple of little micro HD cameras. This is the Firefly micro action camera, and this is the Quelima SQ12, and they are tiny. This is the Quelima. It looks like a tiny little box, and if I put it next to the Session you'll see it is tiddly and it weighs nothing. This is the Firefly action camera, a little bit bigger, weighs about the same, and you can put it in this handy little mount it comes with to give you the angle. So what we're expecting from these is obviously not GoPro footage. These both do 1080p 30 at a relatively wide angle, but they don't have 60 FPS, and I'm going to guess they might be a little bit more susceptible to any sort of shake in the footage, but we'll see. Now, the reason I'm mentioning these are more friendly for beginning is because they're cheap. The Quelima is about £12, the little Firefly about £18, and it's almost kind of disposable. In fact, putting an SD card in there will basically double their value. So yeah, both of these come with a little bit more, so let's have a bit of a close-up about what's in the box. Okay, so let's have a quick tour of what's in the box. Here's the SQ12, which got a little bit squished in the post, but it seems to have all come out okay. There's not too much extra in this. What you get are the instructions, which aren't too bad. The camera came packaged in this little bag and also has a little cover for the lens there. The relevant things on it, it's got a mode switch. You can go between 720 and 1080, that's the power on off. And then at the side here it's got USB for charging, there's the micro SD port, there's a little reset. Although it's also got little infrared lights. The idea of this is very much a little miniature security camera they've kind of marketed it at. And as that, what you've got, this is like a wall mount, which what happens is you get this other thing, and you can basically just attach it onto there, and then this camera fits in there like so. There's these little grooves which actually fit in quite nicely, so if you wanted to mount it using this you'd actually be quite alright. The other things you got here are a couple of leads. So you've got a micro USB charging, and you've got a video out here, so you can actually get live video out of this. I wouldn't recommend this is a live FPV camera, but you know, it's got that facility anyway. So here's the Firefly. A bit more familiar with Firefly as a brand because I've used several of their cameras in FPV, and again you've got your normal instructions, and you've got some really curious pieces here. Basically these are GoPro style mounts. Let's get all these out and see exactly what we've got. So you start to wonder if these are the same camera, because we've essentially got the same charging and live out. Here's the camera itself, and it comes in this little mount, which is the real sort of FPV type of thing they've done. You can obviously take it out of here. If you take that out, once again you've got the mode button, you've got the power button, and you've got USB for charging, micro SD card, and a reset button, which is almost exactly the same as a little Quelima thing. So again, they're marketing it as an action camera, and this thing does actually kind of fit in a roundabout way. This is your sort of standard copy of a GoPro thing. This is sort of used in the other Firefly cameras. So that would essentially go in there, and then you'd have this thing going to there. It's a bit of a long-winded way of doing it. Then this would screw on like this, and eventually what you'd have here is this fits into there. So it clicks in like that, and you've got a camera mount. And you can obviously self-adhesive, or there's a million types of GoPro mounts. So the Quelima states it can run for about 60 minutes once it's charged. It doesn't actually mention in the manual what the Firefly will do. You'd think about the same, but hey, we'll charge them up and we'll put them through their paces. So I mentioned these are for people that are starting out and don't want to risk a GoPro session, but of course it's not the only reason. These are so small and light, these can go on a micro quad. So for testing, I'm going to put these on two types of quad. The first is a full-size 5-inch. For this, I'm going to use this Vortex Mojo 230, and the reason being is I just used it with the GoPro session to do a bunch of tutorials on acroflying, which you can see up here. And that was very stable, so this will be a very easy compare, and I've already got a nice little foam bit to basically pop these in like that and see how they do. The other platform I'm going to put this on is a 3-inch. This is the Jet RC Sparrow, which is still one of my favourite quads. It did actually have a section there so you could put a battery strap around a GoPro session. I actually flew it with a GoPro session, but it was not pretty. It was far too heavy for it. So these are going to pop up like that. I need a little bit of foam underneath there, and we'll see how they go. And then basically we'll compare. We'll see how the footage looks, see what sort of bang you get for your buck, basically. So let's take a jump cut off to the field. Welcome everyone, it's been a while. We're back at the field after a couple of weeks away on holiday and stuff. Here to test the little micro cameras to see how they work out. I'll show you what they look like at the moment. We've got the little Quelima here on the Mojo, which looks tiny, and on the Jet RC Sparrow we've got the little Firefly. So I'll fly them once in each and then we can swap them over. The Firefly really looks like it's a sort of scaled down session. It really looks like it fits there nicely. So I was a little bit worried last time that the building work had started here. This is all going to be houses at some point in the next couple of years, and I saw a fence going up at the weekend, which you can see just over here. I'm in this nice shade bit because it's absolutely sweltering again, but this is in fact a reptile fence. I'm not sure if it's keeping the reptiles out of the field or away from that. Interesting side note, where I am here is one of the few places in the UK you find the UK's only venomous snake, the adder. Not that I've ever seen one here. I've seen a couple of other types of snake, but interesting. There you go. Let's get on with the flying. So that was the noise through the internal microphone on the QC12, which is not a fantastic microphone, but I guess that's not what we're really here for. So here we are flying it on the Mojo 230, and you can see that, okay, colour's not bad and stuff, but we've got a bit of jello going on. Now, I'm pretty sure this has something to do with the way we're mounting. We're using a sort of big strap around a tiny camera, and I'm not sure that's helping. But of course, we have to compare with what the session was doing in the same situation, and that was absolutely fine. So, as I suspected, it is going to be more susceptible to jello, but I don't think the mounting we've got it in is doing any favours. I think that needs to be held in a little bit more rigidly. The lightweight and the strap that doesn't fit around it that well is allowing the vibrations to sort of travel through. And here's the same QC12 on the Jet RC Sparrow, and it's a similar situation. Slightly worse on the vibrations here, even though it felt kind of smooth. I don't know whether it's the smaller frame and trying to get it on and trying to secure it there, but yeah, we've got some jello. The overall picture though I'm fairly happy with. It's just a case of can we get this to look better, because if this was jello free I'd be, you know, pretty damn happy about the sort of footage we're getting. I thought I would really notice the lack of the 60 frames per second, but overall, I mean, my eyes want 60 frames, but they're getting used to the 30, and I'm liking the colour reproduction. It's just the fact that it jellos. So, yep, that was the sound of the Firefly, and there's quite a difference here in the colour. You can see it in the sky, the blueness. You can see there's sort of gradiated different blues and a very distinct line, and you can also see it when it's in the light and in the shade. So when we took off it looked fairly good, and then when we got going it sort of it changed in one fell swoop, the colour here. And this happens again when we go back in under the light, that the colour completely changes. One thing you will notice though on the Firefly, where the Firefly is a little bit more substantial, it's slightly easier to hold in firmly against the mount I've got, and this is meaning that the jello is reduced. It's not gone completely,
but it is reduced, which is why I could talk about the mounting. So this is the bit, as we go underneath here, you'll see the colour suddenly changes to a much sort of nicer green, and then when we go back into the light, it adjusts for that. So despite it looking like exactly the same camera, I don't know what it is, but the firmware on the Firefly doesn't seem to produce quite as nice colour for whatever reason, but it's easier to secure. Now, normally at this point, I would be showing you what the Firefly looked like on the Jet RC Sparrow to see how that went. However, despite me putting it on and pretty sure that I had the camera actually running, I don't seem to have anything. It's not even like a failed file or anything. I just didn't get anything. And despite the Firefly being easier to tell if it's on, and just to explain, on the QC12, when you press record, the indicator light actually completely goes off, and on the Firefly it flashes. Despite that, I got 2 perfect recordings on the QC12 and only 1 on the Firefly. As well as that, when I put the Firefly down to charge, I actually managed to somehow have it recording, so I ended up with 12 gigs of, well, looking at the back of my controller while it was on charge with the charge cable. So about that. So I didn't go back out and do it because I thought, you know, you get a decent enough impression, and it's a decent enough camera. I just think that the QC12 actually looks better in the production of the colours and stuff, but there's less jello on the Firefly, and I think that's because of the mounting.
It's a shame. Sometimes I like doing these sort of tests with multiple things, because you can see like there's an obvious brilliant one and the other one's like not as good, and you can always say, well, just get that one. These a little bit of a mixed bag. They've both got annoyances and they both do certain things well. I mean, I already mentioned about the indicator lights. I really hate that when you press record it turns off completely and you can't see, while this one flashes, which is great, but I still managed to miss a recording, so I don't know what happened there. The thing I'm annoyed about with both of them, I mean, it's not a big deal, you get used to it, but they both start up in 720p, and you both have to hold down buttons to change them to 1080, and it doesn't retain the fact you want to put them in 1080. Both of them have these SD card slots, which is not sprung, so you kind of have to get a nail in there and take the card out if you want to. You can transfer the files by USB cable. It's a bit slower, but it's sometimes easier than sort of digging these SD cards in and out. So I'm in two minds about which one I'd prefer, and that's that. I kind of get to cop out of it here, because I get to show you both pieces of footage and say, well, which one do you like? It's up to you. I think on the balance of things, I'm going to say I like the Quelima more, because for the price, for it's £12. This £18 is on offer at the moment. It could go back up, so it's so cheap, and it's pretty good. I just need to see if I can get that mounting much better to sort of stop that jello. Now the Firefly seems really good. I mean, it's got this little mount you can put on things and it goes in there, but I just didn't think the quality was as good as the little Quelima, even though this mounted easier and thus had less jello. And I think this is just a case of being able to get this strapped down better to reduce that jello, and time permitting, I'll try and do some more with it. If you're very keen to see what I can do, then let me know, and I know whether to sort of spend a little bit more investment of my time trying to get that right. Obviously, if you're going for something and you'll think, oh, these are no good, these aren't high enough quality for what I want, but I still want to do things on the cheap, take a look at the Firefly Q6, which is about £44. It does a good 1080p 60, and will clamp down quite nicely on your mini quad. But yeah, if you're starting off and don't want to smash stuff up, or you just want to mount these places, like you can, if you had a big plane, you could stick these all over the wing and stuff and get relatively good footage. But yeah, I'm pretty impressed with both of these. This one more so, because it's cheaper and it gets better quality. For the price, it's just ridiculous. I mean, I'll hold this one up because it's my favourite. 12 quid gets you something that will record in 1080p 30 at a relatively wide angle, which you can put in various places. It's just a case of mounting it correctly so you can get it away from any of those vibrations. That, I think, is the challenge, but if you can do that, you can come up with some really pretty nice footage. Anyway, I'll stick some links down below because these came from Gearbest, so thanks for them. These two, and I mentioned this one, I did a review of this, I'll poke it up here in the corner. Take a look at all those if you like. Meantime, I hope that's helpful, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.
Well, you've made it to the end of the video, so thanks once again for watching. If you like what you saw, then please consider subscribing, and if you really like what you saw, then be sure to check out the link to my blog for a variety of ways in which you can help support this channel.